Who's the group leader this week?
I think Michael said he was going to do it.
Oh, did I? Uh-oh. That can be problematic. I was not prepared for that, guys. I'm sorry. I forgot. Hold on. I have it open right now.
Have you had a chance to read either side, Michael?
Yeah, so I read the Baxter side.
We all did. Okay, good.
But what's really weird about it is, like, in the as I came in, I heard you guys talking about the problems with it and like what it says. But for like the discussion leader prep, I pulled it open to see what it said, and it says this week there are 2 discussion leaders. One of you will be assigned to management and to local 190. First, meet for 5 minutes with only your team. Discuss your strategy for getting the wage agreement you want, and then you're supposed to like negotiate about it with the other side. So I don't know how this is supposed to work, really.
Yeah, maybe what we could... Well, I was kind of reading what some of the other groups had done, and it just sounded more or less like they had a discussion for the first half where, you know, excuse me, half of the group was, you know, on the Baxter management side, and the other half were kind of arguing the side of the union. I think we could do that. I mean, even the Baxter side, I didn't print the union one, but it kind of says even in the Baxter one what position the union's already taken.
Yeah. So it says we're supposed to like negotiate for like 20 minutes and then read the stuff on negotiations and then meet for 20 minutes again and negotiate a final contract. And we're supposed to write up a final contract as a team.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how we want to go about this.
Well,
since I read the union one, I can just be that side if you guys want to be the company side.
I could probably help do the union side. I think I have a gist of, so I could probably do that part with you, Zach, if Michael and Amanda want to do. I have to change my notes a little bit, but.
That sounds good.
All right. So I'm so confused about what needs to happen here. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. I think we're just supposed to talk about negotiating this wage rate.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what it seems like.
I need to find the right document because I've got like 6 of them open right now.
All right. So why don't we go ahead and do you guys want to try and basically, I guess, state your case about what you think it should be as far as the union goes, and then we'll make our case as far as what it should be as far for the company goes for Baxter. Does that sound good, or what do you guys think?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Zach, main remarks?
I think probably a natural place to start would be with the dollar amount. Um, I think we as the union would traditionally for a long time, the pay's been around $10 plus per hour. And I think that's one of our first priorities is to keep the wage at $10 per hour. Um, Consequences of lowering that are obvious, being lower employee morale. It's very rare to decrease an employee's pay, and it would just kill the morale of the employees. We're not asking for a raise of pay by any means, but just for it to stay where it is at around $10 per hour.
Wasn't that the plan? It was taking away the incentive pay, or were they trying to lower it?
Yeah, the incentive pay at this point has been eliminated. That's my understanding.
But they were gonna try. They had like the escrow account that they were gonna try and compensate for that for the people that were under that, and then anyone they hired new, they would just do the 10.69 an hour.
Yeah, that's my understanding as to how it stands right now.
And then I thought that the company wanted to lower it to like I think it was like 8.25 or 8.75 an hour. I thought it was lower paid as
I was
well.
reading that, but I was thinking that that was like the other companies that they're competing against, but maybe not.
Yeah. So what I read is all the other companies had lowered their pay. So then the company's argument was that they can now lower their pay to match what their competitors are paying.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah.
Okay.
But I think what you're saying about
Well, what I
the other aspect of the pay is right as well.
I think Baxter's side of it, I think they're just thinking, well, we need to lower pay or else we're going to go out of business. So I just think that there has to be some type of compromise because, yeah, I understand how, like, yeah, lowering pay from what you're already being given is usually a big no-no. Like, I would complain if they're like, oh, we're going to lower your pay so you're getting like $2 less an hour than what you were getting before. But also, you don't want to be out of a job either because everyone's getting paid too much.
Right. So the position of the union, I think, on this is that A, we don't like to negotiate contract wages, midterm. Um, let's see. And we have some confusion about the interpretation of the Me Too clause being incorrect. This clause was designed to raise wages to keep up with the industry averages, not to lower them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Marty. That's kind of the excuse the company was using was that clause, but I think the way it's being interpreted is incorrect. It was only meant to increase wages rather than allow for a decrease.
Yeah, I can. Well, personally, I don't know much about you. Um, they're just always out to get the worker more and more money, right? And better benefits.
Yeah.
Um, let's see, you guys could argue, do you have it open? Page 3,
I think I
right
read the
above
wrong
table
thing.
A there.
I
Because I
see that.
just opened up something different and I was like, okay, now I'm seeing what you guys are saying. So I think I
Oh,
read the wrong thing.
Which is easy because they're like all talking about like the same thing, but not.
They're all named the same thing.
um, well, here, I'll kind of do both sides of it. So I can see where the Me Too clause could go both ways because the original contract says that um, Baxter Wages and Benefits will compare, let's see, will compare theirs to 3 out of the 5 industry leaders. And then the union will identify the 3 companies whose provisions it most prefers, and Baxter will pay the average wage or benefit provided by the 3 companies. Well, so see, I can argue that both sides because it says nothing in there about only increasing wages, right? So if you're doing that and taking the average of the 5, or no, sorry, the average of 3 of the 5, and then on the one page it shows where all those wages have gone down, some as low as $6 an hour, then I don't see where, I mean, no one likes to see a cut in pay, but I can see where going down to about $9. Is that what you said, Zach? $9 an hour?
I think it was like 875, and then the next year the
It'll be
company's
9.
proposal was 875, and then went up to 925 the year after.
Okay.
Or vice versa on this sense, I don't remember, but
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Apparently I haven't read that part.
well, I think that was on another section or another
Is that in the end note section?
or the one before that.
Okay. Another part I can see that's worth discussion between the two is, Baxter's major competitors have filed for bankruptcy. So, no, we don't want to cut our, employees' wages, but the alternative might be all of them losing their jobs.
Well, and that's the point I brought up. It's like, okay, where's the compromise so the company still stays afloat and the employees are happy with what they're getting paid?
Exactly. Because, I mean, no one would be happy, but when you think of the alternative, it's like, well, okay, you can still have a job, like you said. Um, I think I'd be willing to keep my job at a lower, I mean, yeah, I'd be really ticked off, but
Yeah.
it's better than nothing.
Well, and then if you're going to another firm for the same job, I mean, they've all lowered their pay rate too, so it's not like, oh, this company's
Yeah,
just doing bad and I can just go somewhere else. Like it's just a whole industry thing going on.
yeah, right? They
I
can't
think
jump
that would
ship
be
and go
my
somewhere
main
else.
argument for Baxter is just that I think it's stated really well in one of the paragraphs in there where it says, um, talking about the union, they failed to see that profits will quickly begin to drop as the effects of lower wages in other firms result in lower market prices for consumer food products. So it's really important to know that if we don't lower our wages, our competitors are going to lower their prices, which means that, and we won't be able to, which means that our profits will not continue to be good. So we need to be able to lower that wage. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It does make me wonder if management is willing to take a pay cut, or is it just the factory workers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? You know, I think you could argue both sides, especially from Baxter management's point of view. I mean, my goodness, they really had like a creme brulee kind of program here with the group incentives, and I mean, they seem to have kept that up for as long as they possibly could, and now they're just trying to, like you said, Amanda, right, just stay afloat.
Yeah, I mean, they sound like it was a great company to work for because you got like double pay, you got like all these benefits, you got bonuses, like it's. But now they're getting the consequences from doing that for too long.
Well, and wasn't it the beginning of the article that said they had been told, where did I see that? They had been warned by someone that if they kept this up, and I'm sure it was the other competitors probably saying, you keep this up, you'll be out of business in 10 years. I can't find it now.
Yeah, I remember reading that. I don't remember where it was though.
Yeah, they talked with the top consultants in 1979, and it says, if you guys keep operating your business the way you have in the past, you'll be out of business in 10 years.
Whew.
Ignored that advice because they were willing to share their profitability with their workers. But then I guess there comes that point, right?
That was kind of interesting. Sounded like they were one of the pioneers is to offer profit sharing, and I wonder if because that was such a strange thing at the time that they were doing profit sharing, if that had anything to do with the advice they received. Because today that's, a lot of companies do that. It's not unusual at all, but it sounded like they were one of the first ones to do it.
Sorry about that. Is there anything else we can argue from either side?
Are we supposed to go past the wage?
What's up?
What else was there besides the wage? Was that?
That's
Oh,
it. It's just about the wage agreement.
oh.
What it looks like here, at least.
Yeah, the beginning part anyway, right?
Well, so in the article, it's like talking about like layoffs and no strikes and um like veteran benefit package, whatever. It talks about safety conditions and there's a ton of injuries.
So which one is that, Amanda? See, I haven't read that.
Oh, maybe that was in the later readings. I have them all jumbled. Oh.
I don't have it in front of me. So what do we do after we discuss the wage, Michael?
So I was just making sure that I understood what it was. So yeah, so we're supposed to come to an agreement about what the number should be.
Okay.
And then we're supposed to read the 1985 negotiations, which is down lower. And then, so Baxter's supposed to read the Baxter one, and then the union's supposed to read the union one, and then we're supposed to discuss for a little while longer and negotiate a final contract, and then write up the final contract as a team. So it looks like first we're supposed to decide on what the wage will be, and then we're supposed to decide on like the rest of that. So what will we do as far as everything else goes?
Okay. Well, I don't know about you, Zach, but I'm sure the union would like to see nothing less than $10 an hour.
Yeah, and I think it was 10 I think what the
1069.
union was going for was like 1067, I believe, in the case. So I don't know if we could throw out an even 10. I know the company was throwing out 875 or 925. I think the company has a valid argument that they need to keep the company in business, or none of us are going to have a job, right? So if we could maybe find a number in the middle, that's probably where I would go in this
What,
instance.
what about 975? Think that'd be too low?
Well, I don't think that would be too low considering what those other firms are paying. Like I said, I mean, the lowest was 6. Most are around 8 something. So, depending on
I think
who's
that
saying
sounds like
about
I think that sounds like a good number.
what does
975.
975.
Yeah, and a lot of the other it says that a lot of the other plans decided on $9 an hour to raise to $10 an hour the next year. So maybe we could look at maybe 975 and then raise it to 1025 if we can, depending on profitability and everything.
And I'd be fine putting a contingency on that raise on setting a benchmark for profitability of the company, right? Kind of like you said, Michael, if the company's profitable, then the wage can be raised. If it's not, then obviously it's probably in everybody's best interest to keep it lower.
Yeah, I agree.
So devil's advocate here. So what happens if we leave it? That's still quite high when you think about it. So if we're negotiating for a lower wage and profitability still sucks a year from now, how do you negotiate to an even lower wage? So is it best off really lowering it to start out with and then coming up incrementally?
It's a good question.
I know, I'm just kind of curious.
Should we do it at 9? Like, that seems to be the highest that everyone else is paying, so it'd still be like the top, and then.
That's kind of what I would think if I was playing the side of management. Because management's really wanting to get it. I kind of got the impression they wanted it even lower than that. Well, except for what Michael just said, the other plans are starting at $9 an hour.
And then rising to 10.
And then rising to 10. So maybe at a minimum we should do the 9. Because I don't see how Baxter could get away with this particular plant doing 975
Well,
if all
maybe.
the other ones are 9.
Is this supposed to be just current employees, or is this also hiring, like, new employees as well? Like, is it supposed to be for both? Because I think, like, maybe starting a lower for new employees, and then those people that are used to getting higher rates maybe do it a little bit higher, just so they're not complaining as much, but.
That's an interesting concept. Yeah, vaguely remember reading that. I know that's how it used to be, or it was in the beginning, right? 5 years ago. A different wage applied to new employees.
I'd be on board with that. I think that would be a good opportunity to pay the people that have been there, that are experienced, that have the commitment already, and then the newer employees to cut down a little bit. I think that'd be fair to the long-term employees.
Yeah, I think so too. Then they would feel like they were receiving some benefit for having been there. So are we negotiating at lower than 975?
Well, would it still be too high if we did $9 for new employees and the 975, or maybe a few cents lower for continued employees.
What if we went for, say, a little below the industry average at like 850, or on the high end still of the industry average at 850 for new employees and 950 for long-term employees?
I think that sounds more reasonable.
And that would
I'd be really
average out about
concerned
$9
if
an
we
hour.
have it too high.
That works. I like that idea.
Yeah, me
I
too,
think
Michael.
that's good too.
All right. So, we on board with that? 850 and 950?
Sounds good.
Okay. So we're supposed to read the stuff for the 1985 negotiations, which is the later one.
Okay. Just for our respective, so like Zach and I would do the union one.
Yeah. Yep, and then we do the Baxter one. And then I think this is just negotiating the rest of the contract. So I'm assuming the incentive pay and the work rules and things like that, just like what the rest of that's going to entail. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so basically the whole benefit package, right? Well,
So basically, who's going to be in charge of what the union will be in charge of, and what management will be in charge of.
oh, okay. Okay, I gotta go jump on a different computer here. Sorry. So is it under okay guys, sorry, I'm not seeing an 85. Where's that at?
It's right below the discussion prep all students.
Oh, duh. Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah. And what does acrimonious mean?
Let me Google it.
Oh, I always forget to Google words.
I look up definitions of words all the time.
Angry and bitter.
Angry and bitter. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How you guys doing?
We're working on it.
Not exactly short.
Uh-uh. Okay, just a second, my baby's waking up. I'm good whenever you guys are.
I think I'm as good as I'm going to get.
Ready.
All right. Who wants to start?
What area are we starting with?
It's a good question. Should we just start at the top and work our way down? So start off with layoff and hiring procedures, and then go with incentive program and work rules, and then wages.
I think ours is kind of backwards to that, but
Yours
yeah,
backwards.
sure.
That's funny. Well, that makes it interesting.
Yeah, I think that's probably intentional, right?
Yeah, probably. Well, anything anybody wants to start with?
Wait, which section are we starting with?
That's what I was asking. Which section do you get to start with?
How about layoff and hiring procedures?
Let's go for it. So who wants to start?
Well, why don't you as management start since we started last time?
Okay, sounds good. Amanda, do you want to throw in your thoughts?
Well, they have this 52-week layoff notice, and I feel like that's a very long notice. That's not not necessary, I don't think, and I think that would cause a lot of extra pay when they're trying to save money by doing that. I understand why they do the 52-week layoff, but I feel like having a shorter amount of time would save the company money, and it wouldn't make a huge difference for the employees.
Yeah, so I think we're offering a really good compensation package for a good severance package for people that we're laying off and things like that. So we're not saying that it shouldn't be we can that we should terminate people or lay off people on the same day that we notify them, but 52 weeks is just too long. I mean, that's an entire year that we have to give them in advance of the layoff. So we're thinking about something a lot shorter than that.
Well, I'll go. So we as the union would like to see the 52-week notice stay in place. These people that have been around longer, they know their jobs, they understand how to work efficiently, and our role as a union is to protect these long-time, employees. I can also say that if layoffs are absolutely necessary, then any new hiring that would be done should be done off this list of employees who have been laid off.
Well, it sounds like they're willing to do that, but they don't want to go higher than 50% off of the layoff list. Probably it looks like it's due to the people that have been there the longest are causing the most problems, and some of their newer employees are better workers and aren't as difficult. So I just think that they're trying to diminish attitude along with employee numbers.
Well,
So,
that's interesting because on the union side of it, they're saying that because of all the new employees that have been hired at this plant, there have been significant injuries because these new employees have only been trained by other new employees, so they're not receiving proper training. Where did it say that?
Yeah, it was saying that the people that were working at the old factory, like they were there and they were still learning the new things, and then they were required to train the new employees that were just hired, and so I
Right.
think it's like a big training thing. I don't think it has to do with whether you were a veteran or not, because either way you were learning the new.
Yeah, so basically everyone in the plant is new because they changed how the plant works so significantly, is what I understood.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because basically every single aspect of the job changed, and so now our concern is that with the senior employees, they're so stuck in the ways of how it used to be that they're not willing to change the way they're doing things, and that's creating problems with attitude and things like that. Whereas these new employees are quick at learning the new processes, and they're catching up on it. They're eager and excited rather than already demoralized because of the lower wages and things like that. Because they're coming in at a good wage for the industry. So they're excited about how much they're getting paid, and so they're performing really well.
Well, this is interesting because, as a union, we're supposed to be outraged about the injury rates.
And we're supposed to not care.
And right. And probably isn't that the truth between negotiations between management and a union? I don't know the first thing about unions.
I really don't either.
I mean, all I hear is all the nasty stuff.
I just know they cause a lot of problems. So.
Exactly, right?
All I know is that I took a class one time where one of my teachers said that President Clark was like a huge advocate of unions, and I always wondered why.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
See, I have never, ever heard anything good about unions.
I haven't either.
But I mean, a lot of what we hear comes from corporations too, right?
Well, yes, other than, like, my parents used to work for the state of Washington, and
Yeah.
they didn't have anything good to say about their unions
That's
because
interesting.
even they saw the negative effect that these unions were having on the employees and their work. It was basically cramping their productivity.
I know my dad loves the union he's a part of. He's a part of the teachers union, and it's kind of saved his butt a couple times.
Yeah,
But
maybe
I
it
don't
depends
know,
on what
it's so
position
hard.
you're in.
I think not all unions are equal too, right?
Oh, definitely.
So I don't know the first thing about unions, though, to be honest with you. I don't know how they work. I don't know much about them, so.
Well, one of the things I am learning from all my friends who are teachers that are part of unions, I get the impression that people just want to be able to choose and not be forced based on their job to be part of a union.
Yeah.
In this day and age, that does seem kind of fair in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, well, sounds like we're not exactly going to have an agreement on this 52-week. Because the union stand on this is pretty cut and dry.
A year to lay off, like how do companies even know that they're going to be laying off people in a year? Like how that just seems crazy long to me.
The 52 weeks.
Yeah, like we're gonna need a layoff in a year, so we'll just give you notice right now. Like I just don't see how they know for sure what's going to be happening in the next year. Like, because people are going to be trying to, the company's going to be trying to do better and progress. They're not going to want to expect to be losing money. Like, they're planning to do better, and so I just feel like that's a really far advanced notice for not knowing what's going to happen.
So how about this? How about we think about the possibility of reducing the amount of time of notice that we give to employees,
Okay.
but and as Baxter, we retain the control over the hiring decisions that the company makes, but we give the union a lot of say in how the layoffs are ran.
As far as like who and
So who's getting laid off and things like that.
well, maybe that's a decent compromise. It points out in my reading that, the standard practice in all these other manufacturing competitors is that at a minimum, it looks like the union is kind of in charge of what you just said, Michael. Those that are being laid off, it doesn't say anything about the time, though. It doesn't point that out, I don't think, anywhere. It doesn't, I haven't read where it says what their competitors do on this layoff notice. Did it say in your guys' reading?
No, I didn't see it anywhere, unless you did, Amanda.
The layoff notice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what's the industry average for how long they give people?
Yeah, I didn't see anything like that.
Yeah, they probably left it out intentionally.
Right? That would make it a lot easier.
Yep. Okay, what else do we need to negotiate? I'll probably get in trouble for being a soft. I'm probably supposed to say no to everything. I don't see Zach on here. He must have taken off.
Yeah, I
Okay.
saw him disappear a little while ago.
Um,
The Department of Labor says something about a 60-day notice on their website.
I would say, well, I don't know if the union would like this, but I'd say 3-month notice for layoffs.
So a 12-week notice instead of a 52-week.
Yeah.
well, if I'm playing hardball, we should probably compromise somewhere in the middle.
Like,
Instead of 52, maybe it needs to be 27 or whatever that works out to. 21.
how long is 6 months? How many?
I know
24?
that really seems like a long time, but since they're not saying what the competitors are doing, I have to believe that maybe it's not that unusual for the union to expect that.
Well, I remember reading somewhere that, I don't remember which article it was, where
Which one out of the 4?
a no layoff company or whatever, so that's why they said that they did 52 weeks. So I think they just have to change that motto, whatever the word you put with that is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. So, okay, well,
So maybe 6 months, like half and half. I don't know.
yeah, I think I better at a minimum do that much.
All right. Sounds good. And so you guys will have control over who gets laid off and we'll have control over who gets hired, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right, so Union, you can pick your next argument, I guess.
Excuse me. How about the incentive program?
All right.
Um, sorry, I gotta read this over again real quick. Okay, so this new plant has been open for 3 years now, and there's plenty of data on the books about production and profit levels um, to allow Baxter to come back with a more reasonable incentive plan. Plus, the union feels that by giving this back to the employees, that hopefully this would reduce the injury rate so that they would be less concerned about, they would be more concerned over quality versus quantity.
Okay. Well, on our end, it says the old plant, each line did the same job day after day, year after year. It was simple to calculate a given level of line production that would be required for each individual employee. But the new plant, each line produces multiple products, and the products change sometimes as often as 5 times in 1 week. And it says, while it might be possible to set overall production quotas for the plant, it's unclear how those would be translated to individual lines and individual employees' responsibilities on the lines.
Can I just say that from my own experience working with a production facility, that I can understand that. I used to work for a company, Melaleuca, in Idaho, and we had a production line that ran as much as 3 different products a day. And so trying to figure out an incentive plan for them that was based on number of products produced was impossible because you knew like that week what you were producing that week, and so then you'd plan out the week or the next 2 weeks, but past that you had no idea what you were going to need to put out there because it was just based on what products sold faster than other products. And so sometimes some products would pick up and sometimes some would slow down, and so trying to figure out which products they were producing which day was near impossible. And then you could produce a different amount of products based on which product you were producing. Does that make sense? So you couldn't come up with some general number because some days you were going to put out insane numbers because that product was just easier to put together. But some days you looked really slow because that product was just harder to produce. So it's a hard situation.
Yeah, it is.
And the other thing that was pointed out along with that was giving up speed and flexibility so that employees can rest all afternoon like they used to in the old plant. Getting nothing in return is not an option. So, like, just having them say, oh, we met our quota, like, we can just go home now, I don't think that's very productive for the company. If they can produce more, then they should be producing more.
Yeah, so the unions, as far as production goes, the union's side of this is that they would like to see the production target set at 80% of the current level, with anything above that paid for through incentives. And the union is willing to give a little on this, but feel that it's important that Baxter and its employees again develop a cooperative mode of production. The union feels that the plant is now operating at a pace that is not only hazardous to the employees' health, but to the morale as well.
I don't know.
I know. I don't really see how we come to an agreement on stuff like this because it seems like we're talking polar opposites, right?
Yeah. Like we're saying no incentive program, hands down. This is extremely important to us. We feel really strongly about it. So,
Well, and maybe that's the reality of negotiating with a union is you just always end up in the middle somewhere
I don't know.
instead of, well, so, because here's the very first thing that it points out on my part is that if we can't come to an agreement, then the employees are going on strike next month. So I guess it's just that simple. You know, we
And
either
it
have
points out in ours
what's
is,
that?
and what it says in ours is, well, if they go on strike, we could shut down the plant completely. We could try to run the plant with management employees on a reduced basis. We could hire temporary replacements for strikers who like to stay out, or we could hire permanent replacements for strikers who like to stay out. Any combination of these things.
Yep, right. That's always the leverage they've got on unions.
So it's like, sure, go on strike. We'll hire all new employees.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
That's why I'm not a negotiator.
I'm not either on purpose, right?
I'm,
So,
I'm, I'm not.
um,
Um,
can we again negotiate incentives somewhere in the middle instead of doing away with it completely?
Well, it just sounds like it's not possible to figure out incentives unless
so
it's
your
really
reading
broad.
was saying that setting the like goal as 80% of what they're currently producing, and then anything over that would be covered in incentive pay.
Oh yeah, I guess that works.
Is that what you said your reading said, Marty?
Yeah, that's what the union says.
So what if we
So
did a little bit higher than
90%.
80%?
Like 90%?
Yeah, so if we set the goal at like 90% and set anything above that, we could do an incentive plan for it.
Yeah, that's halfway, right?
Yeah, that's halfway. And really, I mean, that's not that. I mean, again, I'm stepping away from the union role here. Um, that it doesn't seem like that would be terribly expensive to the
To do
company to do
10%.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's only 10%. And that's only assuming that people want to take advantage of that. There's still going to be those that will have no interest in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's agree at 90%.
Okay.
Sweet. So, um, work rules.
Oh, this is probably the most difficult. Jeez.
This one was, yeah, it was kind of difficult for me to understand, I guess.
Yeah, because it seems like, I mean, based on what they're telling me, things worked really well the way it used to be set up. But again, we've got so many injuries, according to the statistics we've got. Now the workers don't seem to have any say in establishing, like, the mode of completing a task. I mean, it's all kind of dictated to them, it sounds like. So, what it says, the union feels that the best way to deal with these rules is to reinstate production quotas and incentive pay and allow the workers to determine the best way to meet the quotas.
And ours says, we don't see an alternative to maintaining full control over work rules.
It's basically saying employees, like in the old plant, management mandated work rules were essentially only those required by law. Employees pretty much worked in whatever manner they wished as long as the quotas were met. But in the new factory, there's so much complexity that there's no way to predict all the work rules that may be needed over the term of the contract, and employees need to be trained in multiple positions at multiple tasks in one position since the lines produce different products at different times.
Okay, so the union's compromise is that it be not just up to the workers, but it be a combination of management and the union reps having an equal voice in the new work rules. Are you guys okay with that?
I'd be okay with that, I think.
I don't think Baxter would be okay with that, honestly. So like if I were actually a manager, one of these managers at Baxter, I think that I would have it so ingrained into me that we had to be so set on maintaining complete control over it that if it was like equal voice, I'd like have steam blowing out of my ears, you know? Does that
Right.
make
What
sense?
if, what if like management had control, but they voiced it with the employees to get their opinions, but they still had the majority of the control? Like they could have some leeway, like they listen to them, but it's not like half and half.
So my
Or
yeah, that was my thought. So like the union reps would have a say in it, but management would have the final
The final
decision
say.
as to what the work rules were.
I think that would keep with the complexity. Like they're talking about training and stuff, and I think getting the training done and making sure people know what they're doing and having those set rules, so maybe it will help with safety and things like that. That the union is worried about. I think management, and yeah, I think management needs a higher say in it to
I
make sure
think
those.
that taking the stance of the union, I think that it is important to have a say in that because of the injury rate that the company is having, which ultimately hurts the productivity of the company.
Right.
So if the union could have a little bit more say in it, they would most likely be having a say in the safety of the work rules and helping reduce the injury rate in the plant.
Well, it doesn't say this in my part, but here's what I'm thinking. What if we relinquish control to management, but if the injury rate does not come down, then um, we establish some, line of demarcation, right? And if that injury doesn't meet that standard, then we're back to having an equal voice in the rules. How's that sound?
That sounds good. I think that's a good compromise.
Okay.
So you're saying Baxter has control, but if you don't bring the injury rate down, then we're getting an equal voice.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that that would be a good compromise because that would push management to reduce the injury rate.
Right? I mean, wouldn't that be an incentive for management? I think it would.
And that would be a good thing for the company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they bet it's a win-win for them, keeping the union out of it, and sure, they want their injury rate to come down. Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Okay, so does that leave us with just the wage? I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wage.
We discussed that already, or do we need to talk about it more?
Well, here's what it points out on my end, if I can convey this the right way. Okay, so the union stand on this is that, okay, so we agreed to 2 years ago to, what do we say, 950 for current employees. Is that right?
Yeah, an 850
Yeah.
for new
50
employees.
employees. But the union sees this as not being adequate because the company's sales have increased significantly, and their bottom line or their net earnings, um, well, it just doesn't seem fair. um,
So
they feel that this increase, to the company should be shared with the workers because they were willing to sacrifice this cut in pay. So now they've proven themselves, and as the union, we feel that, we should step back, step up the wage increase.
So in ours, it's interesting. It
Yeah,
says so. Top management has privately conceded they're willing to pay more, but only on the condition that they retain full control over hiring and layoff decisions, production levels, and working rules.
Oh, wow. Boy, that's demanding a lot. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, seeing as I know nothing about being a union rep, I don't know, would a union concede to that just for an increase in pay? Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, I really don't know. It
I don't
doesn't
have a
give
clue.
me, well, maybe it does. Let's see here. So really, I guess what it comes down to us is we want our workers to have a safe working environment, a reasonable income, and job security. And by golly, if we can't get that, then we're going to strike.
and we'll just hire new people.
I know, right? Okay, so here's my question. Set this aside. Doesn't everybody keep getting paid? This is what I don't understand. When they're on strike, aren't they still collecting a paycheck? Or am I wrong?
I don't think so.
You
Part
don't
of ours says if we can't reach a contract, then top management has said that they're willing to lock out the employees.
Oh, okay.
So like, say
So
no,
that
you
means,
are all laid off.
okay. Um,
Which is bad for everybody. So
yeah, it really is,
crazy.
huh?
It's a crazy situation. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine being the union reps and the guy who's in charge of negotiating for Baxter with the union reps? Like, there's a lot on the line here.
Yeah, there really is. And I'm sorry, but to be a union rep, I think you have to be a really mean, egotistical. What I mean? I think
Yeah.
you do. The people I know, that's exactly what they're like. They don't care what other people think. Of course, here's the deal. I mean, the amount of money they make is incredible. So all that's on the line as well. I don't know that they really care about the workers. They just know that their pay is going to be affected too, right?
Yeah.
I think that's my understanding. But what do I know? That's just hearsay from what I hear people talk about. Well, I'm willing to compromise on anything because I'm tired.
No. I have so much homework I still have to get done.
Oh, man. Okay.
So
So how
what
do
if
we?
we did this? What if we wanted a lot of things, you wanted a lot of things, we could increase wages by just a little bit, maybe set it like 10 and 9 instead of 9.50 and 8.50. Um, and then go with what we've gone with so far.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Doing good?
Yeah, I'll probably do some reading later on where I totally conceded and shouldn't have.
And we'll probably do the
I'll
same
make
thing,
believe,
right?
right?
It'll be like, oh, oops. I guess the last thing that we're supposed to do is talk about what actually happened.
Oh, you know what actually happened? Oh, that's probably what the debrief was, right?
Yeah, so this was based on um, on Hormel Foods Corporation in Austin, Minnesota, and it was with the local P9 United Foods and Commercial Workers Union. The role play is a fairly accurate portrayal of management and labor relations at Hormel in 1978. The building of the new plant and the demands for worker concessions did occur and the resulting agreement that you were instructed to apply to the beginning of the 1983 negotiation exercise represents the results from the real negotiations at Hormel. This negotiation exercise also reflects actual events at Hormel. Included example, management had reopened discussions in late 1983 in an attempt to decrease wages. Not until the 1985 negotiation role-play do discrepancies between Hormel and Baxter occur. This is due to the instructions to apply your own results at the beginning of the 1985 negotiation. In the 1985, labor was renegotiating a cut in wages that had gone into effect earlier that year. By July 18, 1985, after continued negotiations, management made their final offer of $10 per hour, while labor's demands were $11.25 per hour. So the union said $11.25 per hour.
Wow.
In August 1985, upon expiration of the contract, the union began a strike that would last for almost a year. The acrimonious and lengthy strike Local P9 waged against Hormel has come to symbolize the union management strife of the times. So that was like the marker of the entire problems that we talked about, like with between labor and management nowadays.
Wow. Well, obviously I was too nice because they did go on strike.
Let's see. So the labor climate, it has been said that the 1980s were the bleakest decade in the entire history of the U.S. labor movement. With the free market reign of the Reagan era, came to a demise of union power. For corporations, wage reductions were an instinctual survival response. For labor, wage concessions were equated with management greed. Unions lost more campaigns than they won, and strikes often led to the employment of permanent replacement workers. Among the hardest hit were those in the steel, trucking, and airlines industries. Reagan's decisive action in August 1981 to fire and replace more than 11,000 striking employees of the Federal Aviation Administration seemed to confirm unions' decline in power. Historical background: the George A. Hormel and Company, best known for its Spam and Dinty Moore stew products, was founded in 1891. Its business was the slaughtering of swine and processing of packaged lunch meats. Hormel plants in Austin, Minnesota accounted for more than 75% of the company's production. Hormel came to be synonymous with the town of Austin and vice versa. Until the 1950s, Hormel was a family-owned business. The company prided itself on workers sharing in the profits, a radical philosophy when it was introduced at Hormel in the 1940s. Even after going public, the company maintained a generous, almost patriarchal relationship with its employees throughout the 1950s, 60s, and early 70s. The harmonious relationship between management and the workers at Hormel was exemplified in the working agreement, an ongoing contract securing jobs, profit sharing, wage increases, and worker autonomy. The company was nationally reputed to be a great place to work. The only previous strike had ended peacefully in 1933. In the 70s, inflation skyrocketed and wage increases became harder to justify. To keep up with the competition from non-labor meat packers, Hormel had decided to build a new facility and was considering building outside of Austin. As a concession for building the new plant in Austin, after the 1978 negotiations, labor allowed the plant to operate at higher levels of production, allowed management to determine work methods. This is really long. Let's see. There's a lot of the stuff that we read about the problems. In 1985, after the negotiations, the wages were set at $8.75 to be increased to $9.25. So that was March 1985, to be increased to $9.25 in July. The union hired a labor consultant to rally a campaign against Hormel. The campaign was a movement that, in Rogers' words, would shake U.S. organized labor into a new vitality. Rogers was a charismatic and powerful force, and Guyot was confident that Rogers and Guyot was the head of the union. was confident that Rogers would be successful in gaining leverage for local P9. They pressured Hormel's creditor, which was First Bank. And then in May 1985, Hormel said it would terminate the contract when it expired in August if agreement had not been reached. In the failing negotiations, the company's stated issue was wages. For P9, other issues including safety, benefits, and worker autonomy were also said to be important. The contract expired in August, and local P9 struck on August 17th. Well, it expired on August 9th. They struck on August 17th. Direct negotiations continued. Other deals were suggested. For example, a federal mediator proposed an agreement setting the wages at $10 per hour, but making other concessions to P9. P9 was not impressed. UFCW, local P9's international parent union, argued this was the best deal P9 could expect. The Austin workers, however, voted it down. In January 1986, after 5 months of inaction in the Hormel plant due to the Economist strike, Hormel management announced that it would reopen the plant. Strikers were invited to come back to their jobs or to risk having their jobs taken by permanent replacement workers. By March 1986, 450 members of the local P9 had gone back to work. 600 had been replaced. The same month, the National Committee at UFCW ordered an end to the strike, but the voting members of P9 felt the newly proposed contract was not good enough and refused to yield. As a result, March 25, 1986, the UFCW placed P9 in trusteeship for defying their order to end the strike. This legally ended the strike. However, the trouble continued into April as 300 vehement strikers clashed with the police. And then the last two paragraphs. The strike effectively wrecked relationships between many members in the Austin community. Hormel itself also created a separation within its factory, building a wall between the slaughterhouse operations and the canning and processing operations. Hormel followed this action by leasing the slaughterhouse activity to a non-union company called Quality Pork, which provided inexpensive pork to the processes. The union challenged this. It was ultimately ruled acceptable. The UCFW decided to negotiate a contract with Quality Pork, which paid the workers $6.50 per hour. By 1990, more than half of the employees at the Austin plant did not live in town, and many commuted from Iowa. The loss of jobs for those strikers who were never rehired forced at least 500 workers to leave town, eroding the town's tax base. Although the strike officially ended in 1986, for many workers in Austin, the memory of events at Hormel still lives. As for the Hormel Company, its 1996 profits exceeded $120 million, more than 3 times what they were 10 years before. Hormel focused its growth in the international arena, selling Spam in 91 countries, and continued its initiatives into new product lines. One of the most recent products to enter the U.S. market is Spam Light.
That's disgusting.
I know, right? Anyway, there we go. That's what happened.
Okay.
Sorry, that was really long.
Well, I think I'm going to have to write something too, Michael, because it looks like somebody has to write something from the, the negotiation standpoint of the management. And one person has to do it from the stand of the union. Did you take notes by chance? I wasn't taking notes.
I did not, but I do remember what we talked about. What I can do is what I was thinking was I can write up the final contract, and I can post it probably tomorrow on the on our Google Plus page for all of you to review, just to make sure that it was right. We can make any final changes or anything like that at that point, and then I can write up the memo. And then it does say yes, we have to write up both discussion leaders.
Yeah. So if you want, that would be a huge help to me. And then I think from there, obviously, I would be able to tell, what my stand was on the union. Um, and then I could write the little memo thing that, gets written from the union's point of view. So yeah, if you could post that, it doesn't have to be done. I won't get to it till probably Friday or Saturday, honestly.
Yeah,
So,
Wednesday's probably a good day for me. I'll try and get it posted tomorrow. If not, the latest would be Thursday, because after that I'm I'm out of touch with the world for 2 days. So
okay. Okay, well, that'd be great if you could. And then if you'll do the one from the um, from management's point of view,
okay,
okay?
uh, that sounds good. I just wanted to end by saying I think that the negotiations that we made were really good. It showed that we were able to bend as well as the union was able to bend, and I think if the union would have been willing to do what we did tonight, it could have changed the impact that it had on that entire city, because it's pretty crazy that 500 workers had to leave that city just because of this battle between the union and the company. So it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, that is. And that's the unfortunate part in my mind about unions in general. Because it seems to me like we've talked about from the very beginning, if you're willing to compromise, then look what you save everyone in the long run.
Yep.
I don't know, some people are too stubborn for that, I guess.
And I think it's both sides a lot of the time. So if the company is unwilling to compromise, which it seemed like from my reading, it's like, oh, well, we're not going to do this unless you give us everything. And the
Yeah,
union's like, no, we're not going to bend on this at all. And it's like, well, no wonder. It's the same thing that happened with our government shutdown, where we were unwilling to compromise, and so they're like, okay, fine, we'll shut down the government. And that's not
yeah, like
acceptable.
that proves anything.
Yeah. Okay, so you still didn't come to a decision, and the government was shut down for a while, so I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's just sad.
So, all right, well, good meeting, guys. I'm glad that we were able to throw it together impromptu, but glad I
Yeah,
have
this
such a
is a
great
hard
group
one.
that makes it not so hard to throw things together impromptu, I guess.
Yeah. Well, for me, this was one of the more tricky ones just because so few of us know anything about unions.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, thanks, you guys.
Okay, have a great night, guys.
Okay, you too.